A pure white light shot up from the hospital building, piercing the dim sky, sending ripples of light that dispelled all the gloom. On the opposite hospital rooftop, Gilgamesh, who had been resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened them as if sensing something, and looked towards the direction of the rising light beam. This aura, Gilgamesh frowned slightly. In a corner of the hospital, Sun Wukong, who had been drinking heavily, also turned his head to look at the soaring light beam. He stared for a long time, then silently withdrew his gaze and continued to drink from the wine jar. Meanwhile, on the steps in front of the courtyard, Bragi's cheerful song abruptly stopped. He held his harp, blinked at the light beam and sighed helplessly. Another big brother has arrived. I wonder if this neighbor will be easy to get along with. I hope he won't be like those two ruffians. The hospital room door slowly opened, and Lin Chia's gaze passed through the endless sacred white light, landing on the figure in the center of the room. It was an old man dressed in white, stepping on clouds, emerging from the sacred white light. His deep blue eyes gazed at Lin Chia, filled with love and compassion. As he approached, Lin Chia realized that what he wore was not a white robe but flowing clouds. Lin Chia looked behind him where a familiar panel was already floating in the air. Room 6. Patient, Yelland. Task: assist Yelland in treating his mental illness. When the treatment progress reaches the specified values, 1%, 50%, 100%, you can randomly extract some of Yelland's abilities. Current treatment progress: 0%. The moment Lin Chia saw this panel, his pupils suddenly constricted. The name Yelland was certainly well known to him. As the revered deity of the Western Holy Church before the arrival of the mist, he had the most followers in the world and was the creator worshipped by the largest religion. Even the seraphim Michael was his first angel. Based on real-world reasons, some forces and characters have been fictionalized. The last patient in the hospital was actually the god of the Western Holy Church, Yelland. From the perspective of faith and status, he was not on the same level as the patients in the previous 5 rooms. Thus, when Lin Chia saw him, his heart trembled slightly. In this light, the book on the doorplate should not symbolize knowledge or text. It represented the Holy Scripture of the Western Holy Church. Lin Chia carefully examined Yelland before him. From his movements and expressions, there were no obvious abnormalities, nor any symptoms of depression, confusion, or mental disarray. At first glance, he seemed no different from a normal person. Of course, this did not mean that Yelland's condition was mild. On the contrary, it might indicate that he was very ill. The more difficult it was to judge his condition from his behavior, the harder it would be to find the root of the problem and treat it effectively. After hesitating for a moment, Lin Chia chose to speak first, testing his situation. Hello. You are doing very well, child. Yelland, surrounded by mist, walked up to Lin Chia, his deep blue eyes looking into Lin Chia's, speaking lovingly and gently. Child. In that moment, countless cases of delusions and cognitive disorders flashed through Lin Chia's mind, but upon reflection, this term seemed reasonable. In Lin Chia's understanding of the Western Holy Church, humans are the offspring created by the gods. Here, child should not refer solely to Lin Chia but to all humanity in Yelland's eyes. To God he indeed had the right to use this term. Lin Chia pondered for a moment and spoke again. How do you feel? You are doing very well, child. Yelland said lovingly once more. Lin Chia's brow furrowed slightly as he gazed into Yelland's gentle and profound eyes, tentatively continuing. Do you know where this is? You are doing very well, child. Why do you keep repeating that? You are doing very well, child. Amit Ba. You are doing very well, child. Lin Chia. It seemed the symptoms were quite apparent. Lin Chia briefly recalled the notes left by Dr. Li. It seemed he hadn't mentioned any mental illnesses with such symptoms. It looked like he needed to do more research. Li Yifei. Lin Chia called out as he leaned over the corridor. Soon, Li Yifei appeared with a broom and cloth, wiping the sweat from his forehead with his wrist. What's wrong? Chia. This new patient should also be the last one. Please take care of him. Him? This old man looks quite kind. Who is he? God Yelland. You are doing very well, child. After leaving Yelland in Li Yifei's care, Lin Chia went down to the first floor. He stood in the courtyard feeling a slight stir in his heart, and looked up at the second floor of the hospital. With the last room opened, all 6 rooms had been revealed and all 6 patients had now appeared. If the 6 rooms corresponded to Lin Chia's 6 realms, then they had reached the limit of this hospital. From now on, there shouldn't be any new rooms appearing, right? Lin Chia thought to himself. Just as he was about to leave the hospital, a figure appeared before him. Monkey brother? Lin Chia looked at the figure in front of him, holding 2 empty wine jars, with a complex and lonely expression, and spoke in surprise. Lin Chia. Sun Wukong slowly spoke, gazing into Lin Chia's eyes, and after a moment of silence said, "Help me with a favor." "What is it?" "I want to go out." Heavenly Court Guest Room. Lin Chia opened his eyes and slowly sat up from the bed. A phantom shadow emerged from around him, solidifying into an ancient ape draped in half a robe with dark golden fur. Once the treatment progress exceeds 50%, patients can leave the hospital in a soul state for a short time. Previously, when in Songnan, Lin Chia had also let Nyx out once. The only drawback was that gods in this state lacked combat ability. "Monkey brother, what do you want to do?" Sun Wukong closed his eyes, a surge of divine power flowed, and his form quickly twisted, transforming into an ordinary-looking middle-aged man, draped in a deep red cloak identical to Lin Chia's, with a hood covering his entire face. 72 transformations. "Don't worry, I won't cause a commotion or expose the existence of the hospital." Sun Wukong paused for a moment. "I just want to see some people." Lin Chia pondered for a moment. "All right, I'll go with you." He coughed once in the room and the door opened automatically. Little Black, panting and sticking out its tongue, rushed in from outside. Upon seeing a strange man suddenly appear in the room, it paused for a moment, then darted in front of Lin Chia, growling fiercely at Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong, transformed into a middle-aged man, raised an eyebrow upon seeing the dog. "Howling celestial dog. Be good, he's not a bad person." Lin Chia reached out and patted Little Black's head, which immediately calmed down, licking his palm before transforming into a dogskin wheelchair for Lin Chia to sit on. Seeing the closeness between the man and the dog, a look of confusion appeared in Sun Wukong's eyes. "How do you know Howling Celestial Dog so well?" "Oh, he's my brother's dog." Lin Chia paused and added, "My brother, that's Yang Jian." For the first time, Lin Chia saw a look of astonishment on Sun Wukong's face. He frowned at Lin Chia, seemingly unable to comprehend how his former rival and friend had turned into his brother. By this logic, wouldn't his own status also drop? "I'll explain the details on the way," Lin Chia clarified. Sun Wukong nodded slightly, turned and left the room. He stood outside in the courtyard, surveying the surrounding majestic celestial mountains and palaces, as well as the occasional celestial cranes and deities flying overhead, feeling a bit dazed. Lin Chia wheeled himself out of the house and saw Sun Wukong standing like a statue at the door. He quietly stopped the wheelchair behind him, not wanting to disturb him. Sun Wukong lingered there for a long time, sighed deeply, and then walked away in a familiar manner toward a certain direction. Lin Chia followed him in the wheelchair. Who's that next to Chia?" Just then Shin Qingzhu, who had come out of the Onqing fish room, saw this scene and spoke in surprise. "Still wearing our nightfall cloak? But aren't we all here?" Beside him, Bai Li, plump and round, glanced at the departing duo, narrowed his eyes slightly and shrugged. "Who knows? Maybe it's an old friend revisiting." "Old friend? I'm just talking nonsense. Hurry back to your room and sleep, I'm tired." Celestial beings rode on clouds, flying over Lin Chia and Sun Wukong's heads. Whenever a celestial left, Sun Wukong would cast a faint glance at them, his expression tinged with disdain. In terms of cloud riding, these two might be the pinnacle among the deities of the heavenly court, but even so they chose to walk. One reason was that Lin Chia's body had not yet recovered, and he couldn't ride the somersault cloud. The other reason was that the somersault cloud was too easily recognizable, and walking could avoid a lot of trouble. Sun Wukong had not yet been discharged from the hospital. If the deities of the Great Xia discovered Sun Wukong's presence in the heavenly court, it would surely cause a stir, and the existence of the deity's mental hospital would be exposed. So it was better for the two to keep a low profile. After a while, Sun Wukong stopped in front of a celestial palace. "I'll go in for a bit, wait for me outside." Sun Wukong tugged at his hood, completely shrouding his face in shadow, and with a flicker of his figure he disappeared outside the celestial palace. Once Sun Wukong vanished, Lin Chia looked up at the plaque in front of the palace. Qiangshan Palace? What kind of place is this? It didn't seem as ethereal as other celestial palaces. Is someone familiar to Sun Wukong living here? Lin Chia could only wait alone at the entrance of the celestial palace. After a few minutes, Sun Wukong walked out, looking no different than before, the only change being a large black bag on his back. Curious, Lin Chia wanted to use his spiritual power to probe what was inside the bag, but as soon as his spiritual power left his body, he felt a wave of dizziness and had to abandon the idea. Sun Wukong, carrying the bag, spoke lightly, "Let's go." "Monkey brother, have you finished seeing the person you wanted to meet?" "No," Sun Wukong shook his head, "I'm just about to go now." With a heart full of questions, Lin Chia followed Sun Wukong across most of the heavenly court, arriving at the edge of several floating divine mountains. Sun Wukong looked around to confirm that no deities were nearby, then summoned a somersault cloud, taking Lin Chia with him as they flipped to the top of the highest divine mountain. Woof! As soon as they landed, Little Black, the dogskin wheelchair, exclaimed, and Lin Chia quickly gestured for it to be quiet. A cool breeze swept across the lush green ground, causing the branches of 3 towering ancient divine trees on the mountaintop to sway gently. Under the azure sky, Sun Wukong transformed back to his original form, draped in half a cassock, carrying the black bag, and slowly walked to the center of the 3 divine trees. He bent down to untie the black bag, taking out 2 heavy wooden boards, cradling them in his arms. He sat cross-legged on the ground, using a glimmer of golden light from his fingers to gently carve something into the wooden boards. Clouds drifted and shadows danced. On the divine mountain, the ancient ape with dark golden fur brushed against the air. After a moment he stopped his carving, stood up, and walked to the highest point of the divine mountain, deeply embedding the 2 wooden boards into the earth. Only then did Lin Chia see the true appearance of the 2 wooden boards. He saw that on the thick wooden boards, in crimson strokes, were inscribed several large characters. Grave of Junior Brother Zhu Wuning. Grave of Junior Brother Sha Wujing. At the moment he saw these 2 lines of text, Lin Chia froze in place. He turned to look at the lonely figure standing before the 2 wooden boards, his expression incredibly complex. In Lin Chia's mind, memories of the silhouettes of the 2 demons lying in pools of blood resurfaced. So the person Sun Wukong wanted to meet was them? Sun Wukong looked at the 2 simple wooden plaques, a bitter smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. As he bent down to take out golden ornate wine jars and numerous spirit fruits from the black bag, he murmured to himself, "Fool, old Shah, the materials here are limited, so I can only make you a simple wooden tablet for now. But I stole the Jade Emperor's dinner from Qiangshan Palace, so today, let's enjoy a feast together as brothers." Sun Wukong picked up a golden jar filled with celestial brew, just about to pour it on the ground when a figure in white walked up the divine mountain from the other side. Upon seeing Sun Wukong in front of the 2 wooden plaques, he paused slightly, then widened his eyes. "Great sage." Hearing that voice, Lin Chia's heart skipped a beat and he turned to look. It was none other than the Tai Bai Jinxing whom he had met before. Sun Wukong narrowed his eyes, put down the celestial brew in his hand, and in a flash appeared in front of Tai Bai Jinxing. Half of his cassock billowed in the wind as he grabbed Tai Bai Jinxing by the collar, his oppressive gaze fixed on him. "I wondered who it was. Turns out it's you, old geezer." "Great sage. Is it really you?" Tai Bai Jinxing's eyes widened. "Great sage, you've returned?" "Old geezer, don't ask what you shouldn't. Just pretend you haven't seen me today and no one can say a word about it. Understand?" Sun Wukong said fiercely. From a distance, Lin Chia stared blankly at Sun Wukong's back. He couldn't tell if it was an illusion, but at that moment, Sun Wukong seemed different from the Buddha of victory in battle who had just opened the hospital room, radiating with Buddha light. He seemed to carry more of the aura of the great sage equal to heaven. "Understood, understood." Tai Bai Jinxing nodded repeatedly. Once Sun Wukong released him, Tai Bai Jinxing let out a slight sigh of relief. "Great sage, it's been 100 years. Why have you reverted to your previous wild, carefree self? Also, why did you come here instead of going to the Lingshao Palace upon returning to the heavenly court?" Tai Bai Jinxing walked past Sun Wukong, his gaze landing on the two engraved wooden plaques and suddenly froze. He turned to look at Sun Wukong. Great Sage, did you come here to erect a monument for them? Is that a problem? Sun Wukong frowned slightly. It can be done, but Tai Bai Jinxing hesitated. But what? Sigh, Great Sage and Lin Xiao, please follow me. Tai Bai Jinxing waved his whisk, summoning a patch of white clouds and stepped onto it. Sun Wukong's frown deepened. Great Sage, come with me. I'll take you to a place. Seeing Sun Wukong standing still, Tai Bai Jinxing called out again. After a moment of silence, Sun Wukong bent down to pick up the black bag from the ground and followed him onto the white clouds. Where are you taking me? You'll know when we get there. With another wave of his whisk, the three figures quickly vanished into the horizon. Soon they slowly descended in the central area of the heavenly court. This was a grand hall lined with magnificent divine monuments made of white jade. There weren't many jade tablets, only 6 or 7, but each was several dozen meters wide and over 100 meters tall, shimmering with a faint white halo under the sunlight. Sun Wukong felt somewhat unfamiliar with this area. He could confirm that 100 years ago the heavenly court did not have this place. As Sun Wukong stepped off the cloud and surveyed the towering white jade monuments, he was about to frown and say something when his gaze fell on 2 of them, and his pupils constricted slightly. Lin Chia followed behind him and upon seeing the gilded inscriptions on the surfaces of the 2 jade tablets, was equally stunned. Great Xia's National Guardian General Western Pure Land Envoy Zhu Wuning. Great Xia's National Guardian General Western Golden Body Arhat Sha Wujing. Tai Bai Jinxing dispersed the clouds and walked leisurely to the 2 of them, smiling as he stroked his white beard. The source of the heavenly court has been restored. After the return of the great Xia deities, the Jade Emperor ordered these merit jade tablets to be crafted, commemorating the immortals who perished in the great calamity of mist 100 years ago, posthumously conferring them the title of National Guardian General, and erecting them here to honor their contributions. Great Sage, if you wish to pay your respects to them, this is the place. That little hill is far too shabby. Sun Wukong stood dazed beneath the 2 radiant jade tablets, tears streaming from his reddened eyes, his body trembling slightly beneath the half-cassock. All right, he managed to utter hoarsely. Sun Wukong bent down again and took out the celestial brews and fruits from the black bag, placing them in front of the 2 jade tablets one by one. Star-Lord, let's go first. Lin Chia, feeling a mix of emotions, withdrew his gaze and spoke to Tai Bai Jinxing beside him. Tai Bai Jinxing stroked his beard and smiled. Very well. The 2 turned and stepped away from the grove of jade tablets. At the edge of the grove, Lin Chia couldn't help but look back one more time. He saw that familiar figure holding a pot of celestial brew, seemingly shaking it towards the sky, then wildly pouring it into his mouth before spilling it all before the jade tablets, laughing heartily. Looks like the old Jade Emperor still has a conscience. Today we'll share this wine with him. Fool old Shah, we won't return until we're drunk. In the lonely grove of jade tablets, only that half-Buddha, half-demon figure sat before the tablet, sometimes laughing uproariously, sometimes weeping as if he were mad. No one knew that at this moment outside the Lingshao Palace, 2 figures were gazing at the scene from afar. This reckless monkey has finally returned. Yuan Shi Tianzun said, hands clasped behind his Taoist robe, smiling faintly. I didn't expect you to care so much about him. Bai Li Pang Pang remarked. That Tai Bai Jinxing was also sent by you, right? Yuan Shi Tianzun slowly closed his eyes. The heavenly court owes him too much. Let's not worry about that monkey for now. Bai Li Pang Pang turned to Yuan Shi Tianzun and extended a hand. What are you doing? Yuan Shi Tianzun asked, puzzled. I need something. Yuan Shi Tianzun raised an eyebrow. What is it? Bai Li Pang Pang opened his mouth and spoke a name. What do you need it for? Yuan Shi Tianzun's confusion deepened. To give to someone. Is that a problem? Of course not. That was originally yours. I was just keeping it for you. Yuan Shi Tianzun turned and walked away. Follow me. At dusk. In the courtyard. Lin Chia was supporting himself on 2 parallel bars, sweating profusely. A shadow flew across the sky, transforming into a dark golden phantom that flashed into Lin Chia's body. Lin Chia was taken aback and immediately stopped his movements. Sun Wukong has returned? Lin Chia sank his consciousness into the divine mental hospital and saw that Sun Wukong had indeed returned to the hospital. The anxious heart he had been holding finally relaxed. He had let Sun Wukong stay in the grove of jade tablets for an entire afternoon, and although he had been somewhat worried judging by Sun Wukong's state, that worry seemed a bit unnecessary. "Hey you." Sun Wukong stood at the edge of the hospital courtyard, looking at Gilgamesh who was leaning against the second-floor railing to rest and tilted his chin. "What are you looking at?" Gilgamesh narrowed his eyes slightly. He leaped lightly from the second floor into the courtyard, stretched his neck slightly and a gray robe moved without wind. A deep voice rang out, "You little monkey, are you provoking this king?" Sun Wukong said nothing, standing in the center of the courtyard, his eyes glowing with a golden light like a torch. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and after venting his emotions for an entire afternoon, he seemed to crave a thrilling battle. Two waves of terrifying battle intent surged and collided like a roaring tide. At that moment, Lin Chia's gaze fell on the top of Sun Wukong's head, and his pupils constricted slightly. Sun Wukong's treatment progress, 88%. A few days later. Knock knock knock. And Qingyu gently knocked on the door. "Come in." Lin Chia's voice came from behind the door. And Qingyu pushed the door open and saw a figure with bare upper body nimbly flipping between a pair of parallel bars in the courtyard. Seeing Qingyu enter, the figure came down directly from the bars. Sweat slid down his well-proportioned back as he picked up a towel from the side to wipe the sweat from his brow and asked, "Qingyu? Is there something you need?" "No, I just came to see how your recovery is going." A gray light flashed in Qingyu's eyes as he smiled and said, "Looks pretty good." "Yes, physically I've basically recovered to my previous level and my mental power has even improved somewhat." Lin Chia put on his shirt and took a deep breath. "It's about time we go down to the mortal realm." "In a hurry?" "I suppose so." Lin Chia sighed. "Michael came to urge me yesterday, seemingly worried that if we delay too long, something unexpected might happen." "What about Chao Yuan? How is he doing?" And Qingyu hesitated. You should go see for yourself." Lin Chia raised an eyebrow. A few minutes later, the two were standing in the center of the octagonal pavilion in the middle of the lake. Hee hee. 7 came. Chao Yuan sat in the center of the octagonal pavilion, sometimes normal, sometimes giggling foolishly. Half of his body had returned to normal, while the other half still occasionally sprouted black flames, his expression incredibly strange. "Lin Chia. What's going on here?" Lin Chia couldn't help but ask. "The Star of Venus said he has controlled half of the Black King and is out of life-threatening danger, but it will take some more time to fully regain control of his body." And Qingyu shook his head helplessly. "Looking at this situation, he can't come with us. So it's just the 5 of us going? That works. Maybe 4. Just as Lin Chia finished speaking, a voice came from the corridor. He turned to look and saw Bai Li Pangpang walking toward them with Shen Qingzhu. It was Bai Li Pangpang who had just spoken. "Pangpang? What's wrong?" 7 I probably can't go with you. Bai Li Pangpang scratched his head and said with a bitter smile, "Old Chao needs someone to take care of him, so I have to stay." "Aren't there maids?" "It's not the same. If we all leave, old Chao won't have anyone to talk to. We need to leave one of our own." Bai Li Pangpang insisted. "Besides, aren't you just going to retrieve something? With Archangel Michael in charge, you should be back soon. When you return, old Chao will be fully recovered, and then we can all go down to the mortal realm together." Lin Chia hesitated for a moment, turned to look at the foolishly grinning Chao Yuan, and then nodded. "All right. The 4 of us will go then." "Good, I'll just gather my research materials and we can set off right away." And Qingyu turned and left. Soon Lin Chia also walked out of the octagonal pavilion, as he needed to find Michael to inform him of their departure time. Shen Qingzhu was about to leave when a hand was placed on his shoulder. "Brother Zhuai, wait a moment," Bai Li Pangpang said. Shen Qingzhu turned around and looked at him questioningly. "Take this." Bai Li Pangpang took out a black jade pendant from his pocket and placed it in Shen Qingzhu's palm. "What is this?" It's a forbidden object, similar to the heaven-returning jade, but more powerful." Bai Li Pangpang explained. "The heaven-returning jade can only help you resist one soul attack and keep you alive, but this jade pendant can bring you back to life. Back to life. Shin Qingzhu stood frozen. There's such a forbidden object? After he came to his senses, he immediately stuffed the jade pendant back into Bai Li Pengpeng's hand, shaking his head. This is too valuable. You should keep it for yourself. Brother Zhuai, I won't need this staying in the heavenly palace. Bai Li Pengpeng grinned and forced the jade back. Just consider it another favor you owe me, like when I gave you the heaven-returning jade last time. If you don't use it, just return it to me when you come back. With things said to this point, Shin Qingzhu didn't refuse anymore and solemnly put away the jade pendant. Thank you. Half an hour later. At the South Heavenly Gate. Lin Qie and Qingyu Jiang Er and Shin Qingzhu had packed their luggage and were ready to depart. Where's Michael? And Qingyu asked puzzledly. Wasn't he supposed to take us? He should be here soon. Lin Qie looked down at the time. Just as he was about to say something, a figure with 6 pure white wings on its back, dozens of meters tall, gently fluttered its wings, directly flashing through space and silently hovered in the sky. The moment he appeared, a suffocating pressure descended upon Qingyu and the others. However, this pressure only existed for an extremely short time. The next moment, the figure took a step forward, rapidly shrinking in size, transforming into an ordinary Western man with golden hair, landing on the ground. Only those golden eyes, still like burning furnaces, emitted a heart-palpitating pressure. His gaze lightly swept over the 3 people excluding Lin Qie. And Qingyu and the others instinctively averted their gaze, avoiding eye contact. Even though Michael had restrained his pressure as much as possible, not everyone could withstand his gaze. Perhaps only Lin Qie, as the proxy, could naturally make eye contact and communicate with him. Everyone's here. Lin Qie took the initiative to speak. We can go now. Michael nodded slightly. The 6 huge wings on his back spread out, enveloping all 4 of them. Brilliant golden light surged out like a tide, and the next moment, everyone disappeared from the spot. Outside the Lingxiao Palace, Bai Li Pengpeng stood alone in front of the palace gate, looking toward the South Heavenly Gate. After seeing their figures disappear, he let out a long sigh. You're not going with them? The primordial Heavenly Lord walked out from the palace and spoke leisurely. I can't enter the place they're going to. Indeed. The primordial Heavenly Lord was silent for a moment before speaking again. I thought you were giving that source path jade to Lin Qie for protection. I didn't expect you to give it to him. That's a supreme treasure that can resurrect even a Lorul body 9 times. 7 doesn't need such things for protection, but Brother Zhuai is different. Bai Li Pengpeng paused, his gaze slightly focused. Besides, for some reason I feel uneasy. Your cultivation hasn't returned yet, and the heavenly mechanisms cannot be calculated. Perhaps it's just your imagination. The primordial Heavenly Lord shook his head. Bai Li Pengpeng looked in the direction where everyone had left. I hope so. A golden light streaked down from the sky, falling between the Letten Mountains, transforming into the silhouettes of 5 people. We're back. And Qingyu sighed as he looked around carrying the black coffin, his expression seeming somewhat regretful. What's wrong, haven't had enough time in the heavenly court? Lin Qie said with a smile. If I had a little more time, I could have established the spiritual energy model faster. Now that we're back in the mortal realm without reference points, manually calculating the model will probably take quite a while. Lin Qie ignored Qingyu's complaint and, after determining their direction, was about to leave when a crisp phone ring suddenly sounded. Lin Qie instinctively patted himself, only then remembering that he had left his phone at Yaoqi. He looked toward the source of the sound as Qingyu took out his phone and answered the call. Hello. Yes, this is Qingyu. All right, I understand. Qingyu hung up the phone. Who was it? It was headquarters. Qingyu answered truthfully. They said that before we leave we should go to headquarters. Commander Zhua has something to tell us. He knows where we're going? Lin Qie paused for a moment, nodding thoughtfully. Strictly speaking, the Nightfall team belonged to the Night Watchers of the mortal realm. Even the Heavenly Court had no right to directly mobilize them. If the Heavenly Lord had directly instructed them to follow Michael to retrieve something, he must have already coordinated with Commander Zhua. Fine, let's go then. Within the city, Lin Qie and the others couldn't easily use their abilities, and Michael's spatial teleportation seemed too conspicuous. After some hesitation, Shen Qingzhu extended his hand, pointing to a taxi parked on the roadside not far away. "We can use that," Shen Qingzhu said. "That car now belongs to the Bailey family." After hearing En Qingyu and the others' explanation, Lin Chia didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He quickly got into the car, sitting in the driver's seat. En Qingyu and Shen Qingzhu both sat in the back seat, putting the coffin in the trunk, leaving only the passenger seat for Michael. At this moment, Michael stood alone beside the taxi, staring at the car door in front of him, motionless as if contemplating how to use this object. "Get in," Lin Chia said, seeing that Michael was standing outside the door without moving, reminding him again. Michael pondered for a moment, then, imitating Lin Chia and the others' actions, grabbed the door handle and gently pulled. Ryup. The entire car door was torn off, clutched in his hand. Seeming to realize that his procedure differed from Lin Chia and the others, Michael frowned slightly, sat in the passenger seat with an expressionless face, and with a flash of golden light from his right hand still gripping the door was restored to its original intact state. "Let's go," Michael said flatly. The mountain breeze blew through the open window as the three people in the car stared in shock with their mouths wide open. An hour later, the vehicle stopped at the entrance of the Night Watchers' headquarters. Lin Chia got out of the car and led everyone to the Night Watchers' Commander-in-Chief's office, where he knocked on the door. "Come in." Suoqing's voice came from behind the door and Lin Chia pushed it open. Seeing Lin Chia and the others enter, Suoqing, who was reviewing documents, raised an eyebrow. When his gaze fell upon the golden-haired figure at the back and met those furnace-like eyes, his heart trembled and he quickly averted his gaze. He pondered for a moment, looking at Michael's brow, and nodded slightly. "Welcome." Lin Chia and the others understood clearly that these two words were definitely not meant for them, so they remained silent. After a while, Michael behind them lightly responded with a sound of acknowledgement. Suoqing felt relieved and turned his gaze to Lin Chia. "How's your recovery?" "Nothing serious anymore," Lin Chia smiled. Suoqing nodded. "Thanks to you for the matter of the National Guardian's steel. Fortunately you're all right, otherwise we Night Watchers would have lost another great general. Given your performance this time, a personal Star C medal is guaranteed. The relevant procedures are still being processed here and should be completed soon. But now time is pressing, so let's discuss the main business." Suoqing took out a document from his desk, placed it on the table, and his expression turned serious. "Regarding your mission this time, the Heavenly Court has already coordinated with headquarters. I will personally issue it to you now. However, some details of the mission involve mythical secrets that even I and the gods of Great Xia are not clear about. For specifics, you may need to ask that person." Lin Chia and the others followed Suoqing's gaze, all looking at Michael, who stood silently at the back. "Let me briefly explain. Your mission this time is to follow this person to retrieve an item," Suoqing slowly began. "This item is called the Ark of the Covenant." "Ark of the Covenant?" Hearing this name, Lin Chia spoke up in surprise. "It's a chest. Perhaps we're not clear about what its true form looks like either." Suoqing glanced at Michael again and continued. "However, this item carries a treasure left by Yelon, the creation god of the Western Holy Religion. It is rumored to be hidden in the Holy Land of the Western Holy Religion. Your goal is to bring it back intact." Yelon. Hearing these three words, Lin Chia's pupils contracted slightly, immediately thinking of the sixth patient he had just released. This mission was actually to find a treasure left by him? "I understand," Lin Chia nodded. Although he didn't know what this so-called Ark of the Covenant looked like or where it was, since it was something from the Western Holy Religion, Michael should know best. With him leading the way, finding that item shouldn't be difficult. "Besides this, there's one more thing," Suoqing spoke again. "This matter is unrelated to the gods of Great Xia, but it is closely related to Great Xia itself." Suoqing paused, then continued. "I hope that during your journey into the mist this time, you can also look for Zhou Ping's whereabouts." Sword Saint. Everyone present except Michael widened their eyes. "What happened to him?" "After you disappeared into the mist, Zhou Ping left Great Xia to search for your traces." Suoqing sat back in his office chair and spoke helplessly. "At first he would return once a year. The first year he went to Asgard but didn't find you. The second year he went to the Sun City of Egypt and still didn't find you. Counting the time, it's been almost half a year past when he should have returned this year. You've all come back yourselves, yet we still haven't seen him. I suspect he must have encountered something in the mist. Now that the full-scale divine war has begun, the mist is fraught with danger and chaos. If he remains overseas, there could be unexpected developments. Currently, only your Nightfall team among the Night Watchers has the ability to move freely within the mist. Only you can find him and bring him back. Has Zhou Ping been missing in the mist for half a year? The faces of the Night Curtain team members immediately became solemn. After Lin Qie and the others returned to China, they had asked about Zhou Ping's whereabouts, only knowing he was overseas, but not knowing he was looking for them, much less that he had gone missing overseas. Lin Qie and the others knew very well what kind of place the mist was. Now the lethality of the mist had weakened significantly compared to 100 years ago, but it coincided with the opening of the divine war, with countless outer gods wandering inside, making it extremely dangerous. No need to worry too much, Suiqing said, seeing everyone's expressions, and added, before Zhou Ping left, he left behind a sword with a trace of his sword law inside. If something truly happened to him, this sword would automatically break, but the sword remains intact now, indicating he is not in mortal danger. As I just said, he's probably just encountered some trouble, or got lost. Hearing this, everyone finally relaxed. I understand. Lin Qie nodded firmly without any hesitation. I will definitely find Sword Saint and bring him back. Zhou Ping held extraordinary significance for the Night Curtain team. Now with the mist and chaos and Zhou Ping missing, even if Suiqing hadn't given the order, they would have voluntarily gone to the mist to search for Zhou Ping's whereabouts. Suiqing nodded, took out a world map from the drawer and spread it on the table, tracing a path with a red pen. Before Zhou Ping left last year, he briefly described to me the route he planned to take. Part of his journey overlaps with your mission route this time, so you should pay special attention to that area. Lin Qie and Qingyu leaned forward, carefully studying the map and memorizing the route completely. The area outside the mist is unstable now, with gods from various countries occasionally walking through. Although you have a seraph with you, since this concerns the Ark, and none of you have reached the divine realm yet, it's better to keep a low profile. The ship has already been docked at Shenlong Pass for you, equipped with some basic supplies. If you need anything else, just ask the person in charge at Shenlong Pass, and they will try their best to meet your requirements. One more thing. Suiqing looked up, meeting their eyes, and spoke seriously. Your primary objective for this mission is to find the Ark and bring it back. If you really can't find Zhou Ping, don't force it. You can first return with the Ark, then set out again to search for him. This is a matter of great importance. No matter what, you must ensure the safety of the Ark. Yes. After leaving the Night Watcher headquarters, Lin Qie and the others headed to the nearby military airport to fly to Shenlong Pass. Whoosh. Just as they boarded the cabin, several aircraft roared overhead, streaking across the clear sky and disappearing into the horizon. Aren't there too many planes today? Lin Qie looked up through the window at the white trails in the sky and asked in surprise. There do seem to be more, Shen Qingzhu added, and they're mostly military aircraft. Jiang Er looked at the sky for a while, then noticed Qingyu deep in thought and couldn't help asking, what are you thinking about? How many days have we been at the Celestial Court? 6 days. That's right. Qingyu nodded, and the others turned to look at him with puzzled expressions. Those new recruits should have completed their paperwork, received their cloaks, sabers and emblems. Today is the day they report to Night Watcher teams across the country. Qingyu paused. At the same time, it's also the day the veterans leave their teams and head to the front lines. Beijing City. Squad 006 Headquarters. Li Zhenzhen dragged her suitcase, clutching documents in one hand, quickly navigating through the alleyways. The wheels of her suitcase rumbled against the uneven ground, producing a low sound. She checked the time, frowning, and turned back to call out to Fang Mo, who was also dragging a suitcase behind her. Hey! Hurry up! Coming. Fang Mo smiled helplessly and hurried to catch up. Soon the two arrived at a vermilion-colored courtyard gate. Li Zhenzhen rested her hand on the suitcase, her chest heaving violently. She gazed at the gate, and in the silent alley, only the sound of their heavy breathing echoed. Hope we made it, Li Jinjin calmed her breathing and was about to push open the courtyard gate when it opened inward on its own. Creak. An ancient, deep sound emerged as Zhang Jingting, Lu Hu and others, also wearing cloaks and dragging suitcases, stood behind the door. Seeing Li Jinjin and Fang Yemo on the steps, they all froze in place. The warm winter sun fell on the gray-white bricks and tiles, withered leaves scattered on the ground. In front of this courtyard that had witnessed countless years, 2 generations of night watchers gazed at each other, and the air briefly fell into silence. After a moment of shock, Zhang Jingting's lips curled into a smile. "You're back." Li Jinjin opened her mouth, instinctively wanting to say something, but after hesitating for a moment she didn't speak. She took a deep breath, stood straight, released her suitcase with her right hand, and gave a firm military salute to the Squad 006 members on the steps, saying loudly, "New recruit Li Jinjin. Reporting for duty." Seeing this, Fang Yemo was slightly startled, then quickly followed with a salute. "New recruit Fang Yemo. Reporting for duty." They were both new recruits assigned to Beijing, taking over most of the responsibilities from Squad 006, replacing them as the night watchers guarding Beijing. Hearing this, the Squad 006 members standing at the door looked at each other and all broke into smiles. "Good." Zhang Jingting dragged his suitcase down the steps, his smiling eyes looking at the two as he raised his hand to return the military salute. "Little rookies, Beijing is in your hands now. When we return victorious, we'll have a proper gathering. We're off." With those words, the members of Squad 006 walked past Li Jinjin and Fang Yemo in their cloaks. They patted the two on the shoulders, a gesture of encouragement, welcome, and farewell. As leaves danced in the air, in front of this courtyard that had witnessed countless reunions and partings, the will of 2 generations of night watchers was passed on through this simple gesture. Li Jinjin watched as one familiar face after another left, standing dumbfounded. Only when their figures had almost disappeared at the end of the alley did she suddenly come to her senses. Tears welled up in her reddened eyes as she turned and shouted with all her might, "I'll be waiting for your return." The echo lingered in the quiet alley. Faintly, Li Jinjin saw those figures wave their hands before disappearing from view. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Soft footsteps came from behind the door. Li Jinjin and Fang Yemo turned to look and saw a young man wearing a military coat standing behind the door, watching the departing figures with a complex expression. He was the new king of this city, and also the captain of this brand new Squad 006. He looked down at the two and smiled slightly. "I'm Chin Han. Please, take care of me from now on. Songnan City." "I say, little sister, how did you also get assigned here?" Su Zhi couldn't help asking as he looked at Su Yuan, who was walking beside him with a dark face. "Although our final comprehensive assessment scores were similar, your regular grades were quite good. How did you end up in this small place with me?" "I don't know, why worry about it? We're already here." Su Yuan rolled her eyes. Su Zhi scratched his head, dragging his suitcase along the pedestrian path of the bridge for a while, then looked down at his phone map. "The map says it should be just ahead." "It's there." Su Yuan suddenly stretched out her hand, pointing to a shop at the end of the bridge. "Peace Funeral One-Stop Service." "Is the Songnan City Night Watcher Squad station really that gloomy?" Su Zhi's face changed dramatically. "Not that one, the one next to it." "Oh, Peace Agency. That's a pretty ordinary name." Su Zhi stood at the entrance of the agency looking around and couldn't help but remark. A wedding shop on the left, a funeral shop on the right. Between great joy and great sorrow, this location is quite special. Su Yuan ignored Su Zhi's comments and walked straight up to knock on the door, but no one answered. After hesitating for a moment, she pushed open the glass door of the shop and stepped inside. Ding dong. "Welcome." The crisp electronic sound startled Su Yuan. She composed herself, peered toward the back door of the agency and called out loudly, "Hello, is anyone there?" A moment later, 2 figures dragging suitcases emerged from the back door. Leading them was a black-haired woman in red clothes. She carried a narrow black case that looked like it contained a long rifle. Her eyes turned to Su Zhi and Su Yuan, her eyebrows slightly raised. "And you are?" "New recruit Su Zhi, reporting to Squad 136. "New recruit Su Yuan, reporting to Squad 136. Su Zhi and Su Yuan saluted simultaneously. There was no need to confirm identities. The black case the woman carried on her shoulder was clearly a Nightwatcher item. She must be a member of the Tsongnan City Nightwatcher squad. Oh, so you're the new rookies. The woman smiled slightly. Hello, I'm Hong Ying, the captain of Squad 136, and this is Deputy Captain Wen Qima. Captain Hong Ying, you're... Su Yuan began, somewhat confused. Received orders to deploy to the front lines. Hong Ying smiled, patting the black case, looking around, her clear eyes revealing a hint of nostalgia and sadness. Until we return, this place is in your hands. Make sure to keep it clean and tidy, otherwise when I get back I'll punish you severely. Understood. Suja was stunned for a moment, then stood straight and answered, Don't worry, Captain Hong Ying. Cleaning is my specialty. Another senior member will stay behind. He'll guide you in protecting this place and handle the relevant procedures for you, Hong Ying shrugged. Although he's your senior to us, he's just a newcomer who's been here less than 2 years. But his abilities are decent. If anything happens, follow his instructions. Yes. It's about time. Wen Qimo reminded softly. If we don't leave now, the plane won't wait for us. Hong Ying shouldered the black case, dragged her suitcase and walked out of the agency. As she was about to close the door, she seemed to remember something and turned back to say, Hey rookies. Yes. See that photo hanging on the wall? Su Zhe and Su Yuan were slightly taken aback and simultaneously turned to look at the wall, where a framed photograph was hanging. We see it. If one day any person in that photo returns, remember to tell them we're at Jalan Pass. Alright, I understand. Hearing this, Hong Ying finally put her mind at ease, turned and left. The two figures, one in red and one in black, gradually disappeared at the end of Peace Bridge. After they were gone, Su Zhe and Su Yuan turned back to carefully examine the photograph. The layout of the photo was simple. The background was this very agency, with people gathered around a dining table filled with abundant dishes and drinks. The sky outside the window was dotted with snowflakes and fireworks, seemingly from a spring festival celebration. Around the table sat 7 people. The one taking the photo of herself and the table was Captain Hong Ying, who had just left, though she looked much younger. Everyone in the photo was smiling, some with exaggerated laughter, others with subtle smiles. When Su Zhe's gaze fell on one of the young men, his pupils suddenly contracted. Holy shit! Su Zhe blinked hard, his face filled with disbelief. What's wrong? Little sis. Look who this is. Su Yuan followed Su Zhe's finger and saw that familiar yet somewhat strange face, her mouth dropping open in shock. Instructor Lin. The military aircraft, carrying a deep rumbling sound, flew over Qinlong Pass. Lin Chia looked down through the porthole and made a slight sound of surprise. What is it? Shen Qingzhu asked. Qinlong Pass looks different from when we were last here. They all looked down to see a grand, majestic pass like a miniature city standing on the shimmering sea at the misty border, twice as large as before. The walls were divided into inner and outer layers. The inner city wall enclosed 1/3 of the entire pass, which was also the most populated area. The outer city wall was at the very edge, and between the two walls were dozens of circular sea areas where numerous ships and weapons were docked. Within the pass, many figures moved about, no longer having the desolate and quiet appearance of before. With the deployment of numerous night watchers, these passes are gradually being activated and entering a state of war. And Qingyu pushed up his glasses, a gray light flashing in his eyes as he gazed down, unable to help but remark. From the overall layout, there are virtually no blind spots. This is completely a war fortress. As they were talking, the plane slowly landed, the cabin door opened and the 5 of them stepped out. Ding-a-ling. Just as they set foot on Qinlong Pass, a carriage like a ghost pierced through several buildings, rushing toward them, the brass bell hanging in front of the carriage jingling. The carriage stopped in front of the 5 and a gray-robed figure opened the door and stepped out. Master Qin. Seeing this person, Lin Chia and the others exclaimed in surprise. Master Qin stroked his beard, his gaze sweeping over everyone, and smiled slightly. I've been waiting for many days and you've finally arrived. Follow me, your ship is ready. Lin Chia and the others exchanged glances and quickly followed behind Master Qin, with the boy driving the carriage trailing far behind. Master Qin, why are you here? I am one of the guardians of this pass, of course I'm here. The guardian of Qinlong Pass? Lin Chia asked in surprise, Wasn't the person in charge of Qianlong Pass previously a night watcher? That was during peacetime. Teacher Qin led the way ahead while explaining unhurriedly. Now that the full-scale divine war has begun, all 12 Class A war fortresses have entered a state of war. Within this pass, various forces are integrated: drone logistics support, Great Xia military, night watchers, special teams, human apex fighters, and even heavenly court deities are all present. These war passes are no longer the empty shells you saw before. It can be said that nearly 80% of Great Xia's combat power is now distributed among these passes. As Teacher Qin finished speaking, more than 10 military trucks loaded with surface-to-air interceptor missiles roared past Lin Chia and his companions, raising billowing clouds of dust that filled the air. Lin Chia waved away the dust in front of him and looked around this magnificent and enormous pass again, his eyes filled with shock. So, does Qianlong Pass now have a Great Xia deity guarding it? Of course. Teacher Qin led everyone to the edge of Qianlong Pass's inner wall, where several military figures immediately saluted and opened the doors to let them through. After exiting the inner wall of the pass, there were very few large-scale buildings and logistics teams to be seen. Most of what came into view were circular waters for docking fleets or offshore platforms for helicopters. Thick silver-glowing cannon barrels were embedded in the walls, arranged like honeycombs pointing at the entrance where the outer and inner walls met, resembling a firepower fortress. Following the military green path made of floating panels, Lin Chia and his group passed through several waterways. A helicopter roared overhead and slowly landed on a nearby offshore platform. Several night watchers wearing dark red cloaks jumped off with their luggage and black boxes, and people quickly came to register their information. Those look like the night watcher team from Huaihai City, and Qingyu recognized those figures at a glance. Lin Chia followed his gaze and thought carefully for a moment. Yes, that's right. More than 2 years ago, before Nightfall was established, they had followed Zhou Ping to challenge the top-ranked night watcher teams from various cities, and had fought against the 007 team stationed in Huaihai City. They never expected that after such a long time, they would meet again in Qianlong Pass. Indeed, night watcher teams from all major cities have come, and Qingyu sighed. Hearing this, Lin Chia's heart stirred, and the images of Hong Ying and Wen Qima suddenly appeared in his mind. If all the night watcher teams across the country had been mobilized, then the 136 teams stationed in Songnan should be among them too, right? He wondered which war pass Hong Ying and Wen Qima had been sent to. The group briefly greeted the 008 team before continuing forward. After walking about 2 kilometers, they arrived at a body of water where numerous ships were docked. That one is the exploration ship specially prepared for you. Teacher Qin extended his hand, pointing to a vessel that wasn't large but looked very sturdy. The ship is equipped with sufficient fresh water and food for you to make a round trip. Other traditional nautical equipment is also available, though you may not necessarily know how to use it. Don't worry, we have Qingyu. Lin Chia patted in Qingyu's shoulder and smiled. For in Qingyu, who possessed the only correct answer, no transportation vehicle or professional equipment posed any difficulty. Lin Chia had no doubt that even if they took a spacecraft into space, and Qingyu could help them pilot it safely back to Earth. And Qingyu smiled shyly. Teacher Qin nodded and continued. One more thing, electronic communication devices cannot be used in the mist. Once you enter the mist, you will be completely cut off from Great Xia. We understand that. Lin Chia and his team boarded the ship, checked all the facilities, and after confirming everything was in order, sailed out of the inner wall's waters, passed through the outer wall gate and headed straight toward the Great Xia border. As Qianlong Pass gradually receded from view, the bow of the exploration ship broke through the misty border and slowly disappeared. Lin Chia stood on the deck at the stern of the ship, a faint silver light emanating from the badge on his chest, protecting his body from the mist's erosion. After leaving Great Xia territory, the gray-white mist obscured the sky, making the already dim sunlight even more faint and blurry. Even though Lin Chia stood at the stern looking back, he could barely make out the location of the cabin, while the bow was completely submerged in the mist. In the deathly silent environment, only the deep, dark seawater churned restlessly. At that moment, a figure emerged from the mist behind him and also stood at the edge of the stern. Lin Chia turned to look at the golden-haired man beside him and after hesitating for a moment, couldn't help but ask, Is it true that you can help us extend the time our badges can resist the mist? The badges left by the Blue Rain team did indeed give them the ability to walk freely in the mist, but the time limit was only 24 hours. Lin Chia and his team's destination was far away, and 24 hours would likely not be enough to reach it. Before departing, Michael had already said he could help them solve the badge time limit problem. Michael glanced at him and said calmly, "It's not difficult." He waved his hand lightly and a golden light burst from his fingertips, instantly covering the ship. The badges on the chests of Lin Chia and Qingyu Zhang and Xin Qingzhu simultaneously flashed with a faint light as a tiny miracle was inscribed on each. Seeing this, Lin Chia's heart finally eased a little. The two stood in the rolling mist like a pair of statues, neither speaking, falling into silence. Perhaps feeling the atmosphere was too oppressive, Lin Chia took the initiative to ask, "What do you think of Great Xia's war passes?" Michael was silent for a moment, then said, "Very impressive. Could you be more specific?" "They can perfectly integrate human power and divine power, coexisting in this way. Very impressive." Michael paused, then added, "The deities are not high above and humans do not bow in submission. The two depend on each other yet do not interfere with one another. I have watched over the human world from the moon for countless ages, and in this long time only Great Xia has been able to achieve this. No other divine nation including our heaven can do it. But what? But the more special Great Xia is, the more wary other divine nations become of it. Under the absolute disparity in total strength, everything can be broken including war passes." In the enclosed seawater, a massive black shadow slowly glided through the dark waters, its moss-green ghostly eyes staring at the silhouette of the floating ship above, swimming upwards silently like a specter. Bang! The giant shadow broke through the sea surface, waves rolling, and a half-bull half-fish monster over 100 meters tall appeared in the mist. It looked down at the exploration ship swaying and drifting in the waves, its moss-green eyes flashing with violence and murderous intent. Its fan-like palm raised and came crashing down with a howl. Clay! The light chime of a sword being drawn came from the ship, and a flash of blade light instantly pierced through space, landing on the monster's neck. Putrid blood sprayed out, pouring like a fountain into the black sea surface. The monster's head was thrown high, and its heavy body slowly sank beneath the seawater, disappearing without a trace. On the exploration ship, Lin Chia sat on top of the cabin, expressionlessly sheathing Zhan Bai. The foul-smelling blood mixed with seawater fell from the sky, but was blocked by a shade of night, unable to touch his body in the slightest. His gaze calmly swept the surroundings, and after confirming that no more mysteries had appeared, he nimbly jumped down from the cabin roof and walked into the ship's interior. "Qingyu, how much longer until we arrive?" "Not far now," and Qingyu said while steering the ship. "According to our route, we've already entered the section that overlaps with Senior Sword Saint's path. From here to the mission location marked on the map, we have less than half a day's journey left." "We've already reached Senior Sword Saint's route?" Lin Chia raised an eyebrow. "Has your spiritual power detected anything?" Xin Qingzhu, who had been standing by the window watching the surroundings, looked at him and said helplessly, "The visibility in the mist is already low, and it's impossible to discern the environment with the naked eye. In a place like this, perhaps only your spiritual perception can be effective." "Nothing," Lin Chia shook his head. "Except for a few mysteries that have been lingering around us, there are no other findings." Lin Chia frowned slightly, his gaze falling on the golden-haired man sitting quietly at the table. After a brief hesitation, he walked over and sat across from him. "Senior Burning Angel, have you discovered anything?" Lin Chia's spiritual perception originated from mortal divine domain, and the true owner of this divine ruin was sitting right in front of him. Lin Chia didn't know how far Michael's spiritual perception could reach, but it definitely far exceeded his limits. Seemingly remembering that Michael hadn't met Zhou Ping, Lin Chia quickly added, "We're looking for someone who usually wears a black shirt and carries a sword case on his back. He's a Daxiao person who has entered the divine realm." "I know who you're talking about. I saw him ascend to godhood on the moon." Michael calmly shook his head. "He's not in this vicinity." Lin Chia was stunned. "You saw him become a god?" "A sword mark was carved on the Great Way, and any powerful deity possessing laws would notice it. Moreover, A mortal creating his own laws to become a god has never happened before, so of course I would pay attention. Michael paused for a moment. In a sense, this event itself is a miracle, and no miracle can escape my eyes. Michael's words immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the cabin. Lin Chia couldn't help but ask, "Is it really that difficult for mortals to become gods?" Michael looked at him and slowly said, "Do you know why gods can become gods? Because they possess laws." "That's only part of the reason," Michael continued. "Besides that, there's another important factor, which is faith." Faith. Lin Chia had been to Takamagara with Merlin, so he knew the importance of faith power to deities, but for others this was their first encounter with the concept. All gods in the world exist in the form of pantheons because only by forming a mythological system can they spread faith and obtain power from all beings to amplify themselves. Each pantheon has a power source that collects faith and distributes it to different deities, which is the pantheon origin. Although the pantheon origin contains the word origin, it is different from the natural origins born from heaven and earth. This type of origin is created jointly by the deities of a pantheon. It is a god-made origin, and only deities belonging to this pantheon can draw faith power from it to amplify themselves. Do you know how the divine realm is divided? Lin Chia and the others all shook their heads. The divine realm actually has no hierarchical divisions. As long as one doesn't reach the supreme level, theoretically, all gods in the world are at the same level. But for these deities, because the mythological stories circulating in the world differ, the faith power they collect from the pantheon origin also varies. Gods whose stories are widely spread and who possess more faith power are stronger, while gods with almost no faith power are extremely weak. Among the many pantheons, the former are called major gods and the latter are called minor gods. Major gods and minor gods, although at the same level, have vastly different strengths due to the different amplifications from faith power. Hearing this, Lin Chia suddenly understood. According to this, the 9 pillars of Egypt, the thunder god of Asgard, the god of mischief, as well as Dasha's golden immortal monkey king and Erlang god, these widely spread stories should all belong to the major god level. The pantheon origin is crucial for the deities of a pantheon. Once the origin shatters, the power of many gods in this pantheon will rapidly decline, especially the major gods. For them, their true strength only accounts for 50% of their total power, and the other 50% comes almost entirely from faith power amplification. One reason humans cannot become gods is that they lack the corresponding laws. Besides that, it's because they have no pantheon origin to provide faith. Without faith, they must rely on their own willpower to break through limits, believe in themselves and form their own pantheon. Among humans, those with such willpower are extremely rare, and those capable of becoming gods are even rarer. For Dasha to produce a sword immortal is indeed a miracle. But the advantage of mortals becoming gods is that their pantheon origin is themselves, with no one else to disperse faith. So once they enter the divine realm, they are inevitably at the major god level, and among the strongest batch of major gods at that. No wonder Zhou Ping could kill a member of the 9 pillars with one sword strike as soon as he became Dasha's sword immortal. Lin Chia thought to himself. Just as Lin Chia was about to ask something more, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he quickly turned to look outside the porthole. "What's wrong?" Seeing Lin Chia's unusual expression, and Qingyu asked. Lin Chia narrowed his eyes, quickly rushed out of the cabin and came to the left edge of the bow, staring into the distance. The others followed closely behind. In the misty fog, an island gradually took shape. On the eastern side of the island, a sword mark was carved into the earth like a heavenly moat, almost splitting half of the island in two.